Hello, I am Rispwind, and I'm just going to get straight to the point. Five Nights at Freddy's: Secret of the Mimic does not take place in 1979 as we've led ourselves to believe. For those unaware or those who have forgotten, the date 1979 was flashed briefly in a frame of the initial teaser for the game, but I do not think that this is the year it takes place. Instead, I think the date is relevant to something else that we'll likely see in the game itself. So why do I think the game doesn't take place in that year? Because, every that is what it would suggest it would be. Like, I think it comes down to a few things, which all tie back into the Steel Wool games and sister locations specifically. I think that the detail that has had many people, including myself, hung up regarding the timeline placement is the presence of Helpy or Helper in the trailer, and I'm about to make a case to end the debate and firmly place this game in the 80s or later, because it is driving me nuts. First of all, just for a bit of backstory and a bit of, groundwork, Helpy first appeared in Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator, which is set sometime during or after 2023. This is both per speculation and the HRY223 log that is in that same game. Helpy's design heavily resembles that of Funtime Freddy and the other Funtime animatronics, primarily in the color scheme and shared design motif of protruding red rosy cheeks, pink rosy cheeks, whatever. This detail is only seen on the toy animatronics in 1987 and the Funtime animatronics. You could argue that the Rockstars share this design trait, but we currently lack any evidence for when they initially appeared in the timeline, and out of any animatronic group, Helpy most closely matches the Funtimes. This is important. We know from sister location that Fredbear's Family Diner and at least one Freddy Fazbear's Pizza have been opened at the time in which the game takes place. We also know that the animatronics of the location are
clearly state of the art,
which implies that they far surpass any previous animatronics seen under the Fazbear umbrella, or really any other organization, potentially. This suggests that the Funtimes were created after both Fredbear's Family Diner and Freddy Fazbear's Pizza had opened their doors. Now, this doesn't necessarily suggest FNaF 2 or whatever. This just means the first Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The earliest possible date we currently know of for the first Freddy's to have opened is 1983, per the Faz tokens seen throughout the Steel Wool games. And here lies the main key issue with Helpy's inclusion. Helpy's design does not match the art style of Fazbear characters in 1979. Characters at the time had a fuzzy design with noticeable, or I should say a noticeable lack of rosy cheeks. They didn't have cheeks at all, really. It's just more fuzz, you know. Fazbear had not yet approached the metallic, plastic-esque aesthetic that the Circus Babies animatronics, the Funtime animatronics, were known for. And you could argue that Carney is evidence against this, but we also don't have a date for when Carney first emerged. And it is very possible, and I would argue likely, that Carney and the Rockstars came after the Funtimes. So what does this mean for Secret of the Mimic, if anything at all? Well, I think this gives us a clue as to the general plot and lore around it. Of course, this is all very heavy speculation, but we'll get into this and I'll give my reasoning and so on and so forth. Assuming Tales Games is mostly accurate, and I'm going to leave room for potential changes as I'm not entirely convinced that it's canon, we know that Fazbear Entertainment lies in their initial message in the trailer.
One of our contractors, Edwin Murray, has gone missing, leaving our property abandoned in his warehouse. Your job is simple. Enter the warehouse and retrieve the technology that he was developing for us. It's a kind of prototype endoskeleton that can adapt to any costume and become any character.
Edwin was not a contractor for the company, nor did he construct the Mimic for the company. He did that for his son David. He did that of his own volition. It had nothing to do with the business side of things. Fazbear also, in theory, should have no clue that the Mimic even exists, as both of the teams that had been sent in the Tales from the Pizzaplex books to retrieve assets from the workshop met untimely ends. There was no opportunity for a report to be made to Fazbear unless something else happened off screen. So what's my proposition? I believe that Fazbear Entertainment has ulterior motives! Big shock, I know. I think that the lack of disrepair in a supposedly abandoned factory suggests that Fazbear Entertainment has been utilizing the factory for some purpose that we currently are unaware of. Either this or the Mimic itself has been keeping the factory in good condition for its own nefarious purposes. This could be the titular secret of the Mimic. Either Fazbear Entertainment had something go wrong in their own experiments in this establishment, or something the Mimic did prompted them to send another team for exploration. But how does this all tie back to Helpy? Well, we know that the game cannot take place in 1979. It simply cannot, as Helpy does not yet exist in 1979. This leaves three main possibilities. The first is that Murray's costume manor was abandoned after the creation of the Fun Times, which places it in the 1980s or later. This would also allow for Helpy to exist in the system. The second possibility is that the teams Fazbear sent into the establishment retrofitted some of the hardware inside and introduced Helpy to the system. Or third, the Funtime animatronics somehow predate Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, which implies that potentially 6 or more years prior to the missing children's incident of 1985, William Afton had already designed animatronics that have stomach hatches to capture children. This is before the disappearance of Charlotte Emily. This is before the crying child gets chomped. All of this. And he had already designed those. I feel that the first option is the most likely. And while the timeline established in Tales from the Pizzaplex makes it somewhat messy, I find it unlikely that the books are going to be, followed word for word. But please, tell me what you think. And I will see you all on the flip side.